Hello students and welcome to the biology class. Students, in this class as we are discussing a very important chapter, that is a cell biology, and this cell biology belongs to your 11th class, right? In the cell biology, we know that a cell is a basic unit of the life, right? Every tissue, every organ of the body, basically it is made up of a single cell. The organism which arises, the first organism which arises was the single cell, or you can say the unicellular prokaryotes was first of all evolved. Later on, certain modifications were done in that particular cell. They were adapted to the different environment. From prokaryotic cell to eukaryote cells are formed, right? Important function of eukaryotic cell is that, students, we are talking about the eukaryotes, right? We are a eukaryote, right? And we have that cell that is having a different cell organelles, right? And each cell organelle which is present inside the cell, they are destined for their proper function. Like, let's talk about the nucleus. Nucleus has a DNA, right? It has a chromatin, which is condensed, or you can say the extended form of the chromosome, right, called as chromatin. Chromatin has what? Chromatin has a DNA, and the function of it is the cellular metabolism. When we talk about the other cell organelles, such as we have endoplasmic reticulum, the function of endoplasmic reticulum is the translation process, that is the formation of a protein, and which is very much important. Right, not only protein, this endoplasmic reticulum, this is associated with the formation of the lipids as well, right. So, we have other cell organelles also, like we have mitochondria, and students, mitochondria is considered as a powerhouse of the cell. Like we need food, right, for what? For what? Energy. Similarly, a cell needs mitochondria for the production of the ATP, which is called as a energy currency of a cell, right, and that produces it with the help of oxidative phosphorylation. Similarly, we have another organelle such as a Golgi, right, that help in modification of a particular macromolecule as well as a transportation, right. So, every different organelle, they are destined for the proper function. In this class, we will be talking about the actual function of the nucleus, right. And we have already discussed about the endomembrane system, the organelle which are associated with the endomembrane system, right. In the previous class, a lecture before this, we were talking about nucleus, right, and we know that a nucleus is considered as a mastermind, right, and it controls the every activity of a cell, right. Why? Because it has a chromosomes, and it has, you can say, the DNA, and DNA is considered as a genetic material, right, that transmit from one generation to another, that is, it help in the heredity. So, to talk about the nucleus, in the previous class, we were discussing about the nucleus was discovered by the Robert Brown, right. Later on, they were saying that that chromatin is also there. It was said by the Flemings, and it is considered as a nucleus arises from the pre-existing nucleus with the help of nuclear division, right, and this was said by the Strasburger, and these were the contribution of the different scientists, and we have already discussed all those things. When we were talking about the ultrastructure of the nucleus, there are four main parts of the nucleus. We know that the nucleus outermost membrane is called as what? Nuclear lamina or karyotheca, right. Lamina, students, means the outermost covering. That's why I have written the name nuclear lamina, which is also called as a karyotheca. Nucleus is having a double membrane, right, and outer lamina is there, inner lamina is there, and in between we have a perinuclear space, right. Other than the theca, let's talk about a cell. Cell has outermost covering, they have a cytoplasm. Similarly, the nucleus will be having a very ground material which is called as a nucleoplasm. Nucleoplasm, right? It is a rich source of magnesium, a rich source of ATP. It has a DNA polymerases, RNA polymerases, nucleotide, nucleoside, everything is present over here, which is important for two important processes. One is called as replication and another is called as a transcription. So, nucleoplasm is also important. Next important is the chromatin. Chromatin fibers. When we talk about students, interphase cells, they have fine thread-like structure, and that thread-like structure, and I have already drawn a diagram in the previous lecture, and that shows that the chromatin is present, and chromatin are nothing, they are just fine like thread-like structure, which is made up of two important parts. One is a DNA and second is a histone. We know that DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. Deoxyribonucleic acid, yes. Deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA having a phosphate group, a negative charge because of the presence of the phosphate. That is maintained by, because what we have to do, we have to pack it in the form of a chromatin. That's why they have very important basic protein that is called as a histones. So, we will talk about the chromatin, and we have already discussed about these two topics. One more important thing which is present in the nucleus is the nucleolus. Right? Nucleolus is also called as a ribosome factory. Again and again, students, I am telling you, whenever I talk about the nucleus, whenever someone XYZ is talking about the nucleus, one thing that should strike in your mind, that it is a place for rRNA synthesis. rRNA synthesis. Right. So, let's discuss about the chromatin. Chromatin. Now students, what exactly the chromatin are? When we talk about the interphase cells, they have a small thread-like structures, right? And that thread-like structure are termed as a chromatin. When we condense these chromatin, what we get is a chromosomes, right? And we know that we, as a human being, our cell has 23 pairs of the chromosome, out of which 22 are the autosomes and 1 is a sex pair, and we all know about it, right? So, let's write about the chromatin. Fine thread-like structure. Fine thread-like structure present in interphase stage of cell division. Right? And later on, these fine thread-like structure, they forms what? Chromosome. Condensed form of chromatin are what? They are chromosomes. They are what? They are the chromosome. Like we have 23 pairs, right? So, these are what? These are the, later on they are called as a chromosome. Now, when we talk about the chromatin students, chromatin is based off, it is made up of two things. One is called as a DNA and another is called as a histone proteins. Chromatin made up of two things made up of DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, right, which is a negative charge because of the presence of the phosphate ions, and positively charged proteins, and those proteins, they are called as histones. Right, and histones help in packaging of the this DNA. Right, when we talk about the histone, students, 20% of the total histones, or you can say the total constituent of the histones, they are determined by the presence of the some positively amino acids such as lysine and the arginine. Right, so come at this side. So when we talk about, students, histones, histones are made up of, or you can say the histone are classified into the 4 types. Into 4 types, right? And depending upon the positively charged amino acid, positively charged amino acids. In your basic classes, you must have studied about the positively charged amino acid, negatively charged amino acid, or you have heard about the aromatic amino acids. When we talk about the positively charged, that means it will be having some of the amino group, or that particular group which impart a positive charge to that particular amino acid. And when we talk about the positively charged amino acids, as per histones are concerned, we have examples of, for example, arginine and lysine. Lysine, lysine. So on the basis, we have classified the histones into 4 parts. One is H1, right? Another is H2A, H2B, right? Third is H3, and fourth H4, right? So they are classified on the basis of the content of the positively charged amino acid, basically arginine and the lysine. When we talk about the H1 histones, they are rich in what? They are rich in lysine. Very large amount of lysine is present over here. Whereas when we talk about the H2A and H2B, they have a moderate amount of lysine. Moderately lysine rich. Is this clear to you? This is a lysine rich. When we talk about the H3 and the H4, another 2 type of the histones, these histones are rich in arginine. Students, I am not saying that they are made up of only lysine, they are made up of only arginine. I am not saying that. They have arginine but in very large amount. Instead, they have other amino acids as well, but we classify them on the basis of these 2 amino acids only, right? So these are different kinds of histones, right? In the next classes, you will be we'll discuss about the proper packaging of this H1, H2, H3 and H4, how they pack the DNA. Now, Other than positively charged amino acids and DNA, they also have negatively charged amino acids also, negatively charged protein also. Right. Now let's talk about the type of chromatins. So, types of chromatin. Students, we know that chromatin are fine thread-like structure, right? Depending upon their staining, that are they densely stained or lightly stained, either they are transcriptionally active or they are transcriptionally not active. They are we differentiate them into the two types. One is called as euchromatin, and the second is called as heterochromatin, right? Let's first talk about the euchromatin. Euchromatin, they are transcriptionally active, less stained. I cannot say it as a dense, but they are spread, or they are evenly spread. Fine, loosely packed, less stained chromatin fibers. Right? And these euchromatin, they are transcriptionally active. When we talk about students transcription, that means a formation of mRNA from the DNA is called as a transcription, that is a formation of protein. Ultimately, central dogma of the cell says that whenever we have a DNA, it is distinct for the formation of the proteins. This says that initially from DNA to mRNA, this is called as a transcription, whereas from the formation of the proteins from the mRNA, this is called as a translation, right? So what happens is that in case of euchromatin, they are transcriptionally active. Right, they are termed as a euchromatin. We have another important term that is called as heterochromatin. Let's discuss that as well. So the first type is euchromatin and the second type is called as heterochromatin. Now, heterochromatin students, when we see a cell, right, some of the in the nucleus, some of the DNA, they are in some of the chromatin fiber, they are you can say densely packed or they stained darkly. This is because they are called as heterochromatin. That means they are transcriptionally not active, right? And they are majorly they are composed of histones. Histones are present more in case of heterochromatin and less in case of the euchromatin. Darkly stained, densely packed, darkly stained, densely packed chromatin fibers are heterochromatin. When we talk about students heterochromatin, we divide heterochromatin into two types. One is called as constitutively heterochromatin and another is called as facultative heterochromatin. So let's talk about two types. Actually, these heterochromatin, they are transcriptionally not active, right? So, depending upon that, we divide it into two types. So, one is called as constitutive heterochromatin. Constitutive heterochromatin. That means it says that whenever constitutive heterochromatin is there, that means that DNA which is present over here, that is heterochromatized, right? When it is heterochromatized, that means it remain as a heterochromatized, that means it is transcriptionally off from starting to the end, right? So, DNA is, or you can say DNA is not transcriptionally active. Is not transcriptionally active. Right? It remain like this throughout the cell. It remain inactive throughout the stages of the cell. Now, first of all, understand that constitutively means it is inactive, but it remain inactive throughout the different cell stages. For example, we have a centromere which is present in the chromosome. That centromere has heterochromatin, right? That DNA doesn't take part in the replication, or you can say in the transcription process. So, for example, we have centromere. Hope you know about the centromere. The center, I am not saying the center, the one part from which the sister chromatids are attached to each other, they are called as a centromere, right? So, this is called as constitutively heterochromatin, and we have example, for example, centromere. Now, let us talk about the another type of heterochromatin, that is facultative. Hope you have noted down this. Let us talk about the another type of heterochromatin, which is called as facultative heterochromatin. Facultative heterochromatin. Facultative heterochromatin. That means it is that heterochromatin that become inactive in some stages of the life. This is transcriptionally inactive, always transcriptionally inactive, the above one, right? Means no transcription over this DNA. This particular heterochromatin, they show the transcription only in the certain stages, right? And they become active in some stages. For example, of this facultative heterochromatin, we have is the Barr body. Barr body. Now, students will ask what exactly Barr body is. Suppose we have n number of the X chromosome. Out of this n number, n minus 1 number of the X chromosome, they are transferred into the Barr body, right? So, when we talk about the Barr body, and it is used to detect the femaleness, right? This is for the femaleness, to check the femaleness, right? When we have to calculate the number of the Barr body, how we can calculate? That is number of Barr body is equal to number of the X chromosome number minus 1. This is how we can calculate the bar body number, and this is an example of the facultative heterochromatin, right. This is an example of the dosage compensation, because we have a number of the X chromosome, right, and all will be transcriptionally active, so there will be a formation of the super female. To reduce that, this is called as a dosage compensation. A bar body is formed, and that bar body is equal to the number of the X chromosome, the total number of the X chromosome minus 1, and it is a darkly stained body. Why? Because of the presence of the heterochromatin. Now let's talk about another important thing, or let's talk about the difference between heterochromatin and euchromatin. Sometimes they do ask this question, ma'am, what exactly the difference between them. So let's discuss that. Heterochromatin, and we have euchromatin. Heterochromatin, students, heterochromatins, they are the darkly stained bodies, right? Darkly stained chromatins. I have told you this is a darkly stained, right? Densely packed, transcriptionally inactive, chromatins, right? These are heterochromatin. When we talk about, students, euchromatin are what? Instead of darkly stained, they are moderately stained. They are moderately stained, loosely packed, transcriptionally active. Transcriptionally active chromatin fibers. Right? Now, as we talk about the heterochromatin has more number of histones. More histones. Right? A positively charged amino acid, whereas this has less histones. Right? As per the heterochromatin are concerned, heterochromatin has, or they are formed in the later stages of S phase. Later half of S phase. We know that, students, whenever the cell divide, it has different phases such as M phase, S phase, right? So in the S phase, where the synthesis of the DNA occur, in the later stage, this particular heterochromatin is formed, and whereas when we talk about the euchromatin, it is formed in the early S phase. Now, hope you are understood with the actual difference between the heterochromatin and the euchromatin. Darkly stained, densely packed, transcriptionally inactive. Very important. Now, actually, students, you cannot directly specify that it is a transcriptionally inactive. Actually, it is inactive, but in some cases when it becomes active, this is called as a facultative heterochromatin. They have more histones, they have a less histones, formed in the later half of the S phase, formed in the early half of the S phase. When we talk about the heterochromatin, one more difference that is coming into my mind is that heterochromatin has less acidic protein. Right? Whereas a euchromatin has more acidic protein. So do remember this point as well. Right, students? So this is the difference between the heterochromatin and the euchromatin. So note down this. So students, hope you have noted down the difference between the heterochromatin and euchromatin. Now let's talk about another part of the nucleus, that is a nucleolus. Nucleolus. So, this is the fourth part, nucleolus. Nucleolus is a place of rRNA synthesis. It's a place of rRNA synthesis, or you can say it's a place of ribosome factory. When we talk about the nucleolus, students, nucleolus is present in the nucleus, and nucleolus is the place where, or you can say it is a non-membranous membrane is present, and it is in continuous touch with the nucleoplasm, right? Continuous in come and out of this occur. When we talk about the nucleolus, students, nucleolus is made up of three parts, and as we know, the one thing I'm again and again telling you that you need to remember about this rRNA synthesis. Now, let's write about this thing. Nucleolus disappear. In cell division, nucleolus disappear at prophase, and reappear in anaphase. In anaphase, right? We know that whenever the cell divide, it has different phases from prophase, anaphase, metaphase, and prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase of cell division. Right? Whenever we talk about the nucleus, it is not surrounded by the actual membrane, and they are in continuous touch with the nucleoplasm. Some of the region of the nucleolus, they are attached to the chromatin, and such regions are called as NOR, nucleolar organizing regions. Nucleolus are in touch of chromatin at some regions. These regions are called as NOR. That means nucleolar organizing region. Nucleolar organizing region. So, when we talk about the nucleolus, students, it is divided into the three parts. Let's look at the structure of the nucleus. Hope you have noted down this, that it disappear at the prophase. It's a place for the rRNA synthesis, and when it is in touch with the chromatin fiber which is present in the nucleoplasm, it This particular region is called as nucleolar organizing region. Now let's talk about the structure of the nucleolus. So, perinuclear materials, this is how a nucleolus look like. It is made up of 3 regions, right? This is called as perinucleolar, sometimes like this, and this is called as perinucleolar. Right? In this, they have a fiber-like structure. This is called as fibrillar portion, which is made up of DNA as well as proteins. So students, the fibrillar region, and next we have is a granular region. These red color granules are present and it is a place for rRNA synthesis. Granular region. Right, and this granular region, it has rRNA as well as protein. Now, other than this granular region, one more region is present which is called as pars amorpha. This ground material which is present in the nucleus is called as pars amorpha. So in total, we have 3 regions. Granular region. Granular region is rich the round granules which are present throughout the nucleolus. These are a rich source of rRNA. And fibrillar region, which is composed of the DNA as well as protein. We have a pars amorpha region. The ground matrix which is present in the nucleolus is called as pars amorpha. Other than this, these white fibers I am drawing over here, this is also present. These are what? These are RNA fibrils, right? rRNA fibrils. Right? Other than that, we have some chromatin over here like this. Some thick chromatins are also present which are called as internucleolar chromatins. They are called as internucleolar chromatin. Right? This is a structure of a nucleolus. Right? This is the structure of the nucleolus. Hope you all are clear with this, students. The whole structure, 3 parts: pars, amorpha, fibrillar and the granular region. Now let's talk about the functions of the nucleolus. Functions of the nucleus. When we talk about it, students, the function of the nucleus, the first, it has a genetic material, right? That means it helps in transmission of the genetic material from one to the another. Second important function of this nucleus is the cell metabolism, right? Because we know that it is what? It is a, you can say, a brain of a cell, right? And this has a DNA sequence, and this DNA sequence, they form the mRNA. mRNA come out from the nucleus, and from the nucleus they enter into the translation processes, and various proteins are formed. That's why they help in the cellular metabolism. And another important feature as per the nucleus is concerned is the variation. This is the only place which is responsible for the variation, right? Because it has a DNA, any change in the nucleotide sequence leads to the variation. So let's talk about the functions of nucleus. The first basic function of the nucleus is the transmission of the genetic material, right? That is a heredity. Do I need to explain about the heredity characteristics? It has a DNA, right? And we know that DNA is a like you can say, when we talk about the DNA, it transmits from the one generation to another, right? So just because of the presence of the DNA, the transmission of genes from one generation to another. This is the basic function of the nucleus. Another important feature of the nucleus other than the heredity is the cell division, right? Nucleus also help in the cell division. So students, whenever a cell divide, the nucleus divide, the genetic material which is present in the nucleus that divide, and they go to the daughter nuclei, that is it, they help in the cell division. Next, this is the reason of variation. Variation means any changes in the genetic material is called as variation. Any changes in the genetic material that is transmitted from one generation to another, this is because of the nucleus, or you can say the nucleus has genetic material, this is because of that. Other than that, they control the cellular metabolism. Various proteins, the precursor of protein, mRNA, hnRNA, they are formed inside the nucleus. So this is a precursor for the cellular metabolism. So to talk about the functions, the very important, that is a transmission, heredity, cell division. Another function of the nucleus, variation. Because of the presence of the genetic material in the nucleus, any change in the nucleotide sequence, if it is transmitted like that, this is called as a variation. And last but not the least, very important, that is a cellular metabolism. Any enzymes, any enzymes are made up of protein, and proteins are formed because of the certain sequences which are present in the nucleus. That's why it controls the cellular metabolism. So students, with this we have completed a very important topic, that is a master you can say a master organelle which is called as a nucleus. So students, revise this again and again because it is very, very, very important. So we'll meet you in the next class. Thank you so much students for watching this.